This is Sergeant Andrew Wilson of the Canadian Army, and he is also a Mustang enthusiast. As a matter of fact, he got a 1997 red Mustang V6, and so this is Rio Red, and it had the same wheels as the V6 Mustang I had. So as he was telling about his 97 V6, I was thinking about my car. It sounded a lot like it, and he even mentioned my car because he had seen the video about my 97, which was a laser red 97 Mustang V6 5-speed. So his was very similar, but it was a different shade of red, but it had the same wheels mine had, the non-polished ones and everything. So it was really cool to see. I really like that combination. It looks good. And he has the all black interior in this one. And mine had the same seats and everything, just with gray instead of black. And mine had the two-tone dash. And so there was a little bit of difference, but this is a really neat car. I actually really like this combination. And so if we look around the car for a little bit, you'll see a couple of unique things. And from the exterior, it looks just like any other Mustang. It has some aftermarket stripes that go down the side. Those are not the ones that would have come on the Mustang, but they are kind of an aftermarket, unique looking stripe similar to ones that you might see on a Mustang of this generation. As we look inside the car, we'll see a few little differences, little things that stand out to me. One is the metric odometer. So you have kilometers in the foreground in the bigger letters and mile per hour in the smaller, because this is a Canadian model. You have no cruise control buttons, and I saw a lot of V6 Mustangs like that. And there are no window switches. There's no Mach audio, tweeters, and roll-up windows right there. So that's pretty cool to see. And so this Mustang needed a little work, and he got it for a really good price. And he fixed this up with his dad. And together they worked on it, and they changed the brakes, the rotors, the exhaust needed some work, and the radiator hose. But other than that, it was a good running car. And so he was talking with his wife, and they decided that they wanted a nice Mustang for when he retires here soon, and they were looking at a convertible 1984 GT350, which is this car right here. And he missed the car by just a little bit, and so they did not end up buying it. And so he looked around, and he saw a listing for a black Mustang. There weren't very many details, and the listing didn't say what kind of Mustang it was. And in the pictures, you couldn't see the shaker hood or anything, but he could see on the back that it said Mach One. So he was pretty sure this was a Mach One. And he said the seller was an older gentleman who had bought the car brand new. And the guy said there was one other guy looking at the car, but the other guy asked if the car included some snow tires with it. And so the seller just hung up on the guy because he wanted whoever was buying this car to take really good care of it and not drive it around in the winter. And so the seller agreed that the next day, a Saturday, they would be able to meet and look at the car. And so he went over to see the car, and the seller told him that it was a Mach 1 Mustang, that he had purchased it with 20 kilometers on it, brand new, and that he's had it this whole time, and it was in fantastic shape. And right now it only had 50,000 kilometers on it. Andrew was so excited and was so happy to see the car in such great shape that he gave him a $10,000 down payment and couldn't give him the money fast enough. But the seller said, "Not so fast. I'm not going to take your money until you pass my test." And that was funny because it was like an interview. And when I had sold my Bullet, I was the same way. I interviewed people who were trying to buy the car, and if I didn't think they could handle it or respect it or be the right owner for the car, I wouldn't let them buy the car. So it's funny that the seller of this car was the same way. And so Andrew told him that he was an Afghanistan veteran, that he was saved by the grace of God to come back healthy and strong. He was very grateful for that, and that he really wanted a 69 Mach 1 Cobra Jet or a Chevelle when he was growing up. And that in 1991, he was able to buy a Chevelle with a 305 in 1969, but he had to sell it in 1994. He said he always wanted a 69 Mach 1, but he couldn't afford one, and they're very expensive and hard to find. And so he really wanted to get an '03, '04 Mach 1. And as he was saying this, the seller nodded his head and said, "You're the one. I could sell the car to you, and I wouldn't lose any sleep at night knowing that it went to the right person." So as you can see, the car has some black Celine style wheels on it. You can see the brake rotors have actually been painted or powder coated red. There have been Cobra Jet badges added to the sides of the shaker, which is what the older Mach 1s had on them. And in '03, '04, Ford was thinking about putting those on there, but they said because of cost, they decided not to do it. So that's actually kind of interesting. So when people put that on there, I guess it's not as bad. I used to be upset when I'd see people put that on there because it's not a Cobra Jet, but I guess people wanted to make it look like the old shaker. And that shaker is actually used from the same molding as the 69 Mach 1. So that's kind of cool and iconic to see that there. And if you look closely, it looks like the side stripes have some white pinstriping on the top and bottom to kind of help the Mach 1 stripes stand out. You see the black Mach 1s got the matte black striping. They didn't change the color for the black cars, so they did kind of blend in. So that helps those side stripes come out a little bit so you can actually see them. And it does look like the Mach 1 hood stripe has been removed. So there are some changes to the exterior of the car. It does have some modifications. There's a nice Mach 1 logo there on the radiator cover. It has 410 gears. It has a MagnaFlow catback, a K&N filter, and a Pro 5.0 shifter, which is the same one I have in my Bullet and my Cobra. So that's pretty cool. And as you can see, that interior is beautiful. The seats look fantastic. It's an interior upgrade package car. And we'll talk about that a little bit here because he actually has a Marty report for it, which is really fun to look over. So beautiful black Mach 1 Mustang. Even has special plates that say Mach 1 '04 because it's a 2004. And he's in Brunswick, Canada. And that's near Maine, so that's pretty cool. So going over some of the Marty report here, it shows that the vehicle was equipped with the following features: front floor mats, rear spoiler, interior upgrade package, power 6-way driver seat, engine block heater, which was a northern thing for northern cars and Canadian cars, Canada requirements. It has the tires, which are 245 17s, black sidewall. Those would probably be the Goodyear Eagle tires because it says performance tires. Speed control, which is like cruise control. Leather wrapped steering wheel, which would be the same as like a GT would have. The Cobra's got a double leather wrapped one, so that's what it means when it says leather wrapped steering wheel. Some cars like my V6 didn't even have leather on the steering wheel at all, so that's interesting. Mach 1 package, ABS system, and traction control. I think it's neat down there that says the vehicle was actually behind schedule. It shows it was actually 28 days behind the schedule of when it was supposed to be made, and that it was made in November 6th of 2003. And so yes, it was a 2004, but it was made in November of 2003 because Ford starts making the next model year around August or so. And so this was a car that was a 2004 model, but it was an early 2004. And so it also shows on the right column there, air conditioning, manual, AM FM stereo, in-dash CD changer, smoker's package. So it would probably have not only a cigarette lighter, but probably the little ashtray cup that comes in the center console. 17-inch Mach 1 machined aluminum wheels, and vanity mirrors. And the thing about those is those are illuminated, it says, and those would be like the drop-down mirrors on the visor, and only the Cobras had ones that lit up. Now, the earlier SN95 Mustangs had light-up ones, but in the New Edge Mustangs, only cars that were exported, such as the Canadian models, had light-up mirrors on the drop-down visors, although some people have said that their new Edge cars did have those mirrors. Had the Mach 460 audio system and the metric speedometer, like we were talking about, being in kilometers. So this is a pretty fun breakdown on the Marty report. It shows that the 2004 Mustang, there were 142,312 made, and that is a little bit lower than usual. They were more around the 200,000 mark per year, but this was 2004, and so you have to remember we're getting ready for the 2005 model year now, the whole new body style, so they didn't make as many in 2004 of any of the models of cars. But anyway, it had... Out of that, there was 142,312, and then 29,906 were GT two-door coupes. And the Mach 1 is actually technically under the GT platform, solid axle, everything. It just has the upgraded engine that comes with the Mach 1 package. So technically, they are GTs. And it says out of those, 7,182 were equipped with the Mach 1 package. All 7,182 came with the 4.6-liter 4-valve dual overhead cam EFI V8 engine, which would be the Mach 1 engine, like I had said, because all Mach 1s had the 4-valve engine in them. And of those, 5,687 had the 5-speed manual overdrive transmission, so the TR3650. 844 of them were painted black clear coat. All 844 had charcoal comfort weave, leather bucket seats, so that would be the Mach 1 interior, and 20 of those were equipped with the metric speedometer, so that means 20 of those were export cars to Canada or so, and 19 of them came with the interior upgrade package, so that makes his car one of 19. And that's very similar to the True Blue Bullets. Half of the 54 with non-Mach audio, like mine are, went to Canada. And so roughly 25 or so of those are Canadian with metric speedometer and stuff. Now, the Canadian spec cars had daytime running lights and things like that. So that's pretty cool to see. It's actually a pretty rare car. And if you read that, it might mean that 19 of the 20 had the IUP interior upgrade package, so that would leave one black Mach 1 that was made and sent to Canada without it. So there might be a one-of-one black Mach 1 out there. There was actually a really neat series on Boosted Lifestyles YouTube channel about a black Mach 1 that they had totally built up, supercharged, and then they ended up blowing up the engine on a quarter-mile pass, and then they actually gutted the car, caged it, tubbed it, and turned it into a total race car. But in the pictures of the car, you can actually see the larger IUP headrests, and I think I remember seeing those during the series. So this would be one of the other 19 black Canadian spec Mach 1s with the interior upgrade package and the 5-speed. So this is really neat. This is the certificate from the Ford Performance Group, and it shows that this Mach 1 was assembled and built on November 6th, just like the Marty report was saying, of 2003. And out of the 7,182 Mach 1s made, this was number 1,993. And that this is one of 1,064 that were made in black. Now, what I didn't see on the Marty report was how many black interior upgrade package Mach 1s were made, and that number is 1 out of 942. But the Marty report does have the more rare number of 1 of 844 of black Mach 1s with a 5-speed transmission. So there are a little bit more details here that we can talk about, but basically that's what's said, and this is neat to have this Ford Performance Group certificate and talk about the rarity of this Mach 1 and the breakdown. Now, something really cool is the window sticker, and this is a Canadian window sticker. So it has a few differences. It has a couple things like in the top right where it says exterior, and then it has it in, I believe it's French, in another language. And when you put them side by side, this is a 2004 Mach 1 window sticker, along with his 2004 Canadian Mach 1 window sticker. You start looking into it, and even the '03 window sticker had some changes on it, both in the US models, and it called things a little bit differently, and it had them in different orders and stuff. But as I look at these, which are both 2004 window stickers, one US and one Canadian, it's really interesting because you look here, like the top left, it says exterior, and this would be the US one. It calls the wheels the 17-inch alloy heritage wheels, which the Mach 1 wheels were called heritage wheels. Yet on the Canadian one, it says wheels 17-inch Magnum 500s, which was also what the wheels were kind of known as. The old muscle car 5-spoke wheels were known as Magnum wheels or Magnum 500s. So I think it's very interesting that there's a little bit of difference there. You know, it talks about the shaker hood scoop on the top. On the US model, it says shaker hood scoop, and on the US '03 window sticker, it would say Ram Air shaker hood scoop. And then here on the Canadian one, it says hood Ram Air shaker. So kind of cool to see a bunch of little differences like that. And so here are those metric gauges. You can see that the bigger numbers are in kilometers, and so they go all the way up to 240, where the mile an hour gauges go to 150. And so it's backwards. So he also had a picture of his buck tag up underneath the front bumper. Been talking about that. The heads on the car have the green X's on them, and they're the DB casting heads. That's just like my Mach 1. So the late '03s and all the '04 Mach 1s and Terminators got the DB casting 9-thread per spark plug hole heads. And so those were a little bit better revised heads, and they're the more sought after ones. So it's pretty cool. You can find that on the cylinder head pictures he took. And he also had the brochures from the dealership for 2004 Mustang. So this would be, I believe, the same brochure that I have. And here's the Mach 1 inside there with the "fortunately smoking hasn't been banned everywhere" picture of the Mach 1 doing a burnout. So that's pretty cool. This has been a really neat story. It's really cool to see this. It's a rare car. You don't hear too much about the Canadian model Mach 1s or Bullets or Cobras as well, you know, but I've always thought the geography is interesting, being that Canada is so close to Michigan where these cars are made, and there are definitely parts of the United States that are more north than certain parts of Canada. I even saw somebody did a video that showed that I think it was like 60% of Canada is below some of the northern areas of the United States, and so of the population. So these cars, you know, North America, they're all basically the same thing, but there were some changes for the Canadian models, and so pretty cool to see. Very fun to make this video, very neat to meet another Mach 1 enthusiast and to be able to enjoy this hobby together. So I really appreciate all the friendships and all the fun in these videos, and, you know, getting to know people and share the stories and the passion together. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.